One Time by Sharon Creech, page 16 to 34. Nonna Philomena, the Angel, and the Fight. Each year on my birthday, Nonna Philomena, my grandmother who lived in Italy, sent me updates on Angel Lucia and also something colorful to wear. A scarf or blouse or skirt made of delicate materials and unusual colors mixed together. Deep crimson and emerald green, or cobalt blue and bright gold. No one else in town wore this sort of clothing, and for my first few years of school, the other kids took no notice of my clothes, just as I did not take much notice of theirs. It wasn't until I was 8 or 9 that they began to comment. Some mocked me, others imitated me, arriving with colorful scarves or bright blouses or sweaters, but the clothing I had was not easily copied, not from stores near us. One time, a mother made her way to our house and pleaded her case with my parents. "It isn't fair," the mother said. "My daughter whines all day long. Why can't I have clothes like Gina's? Why can't I have colorful scarves? It's driving me insane. Please can't you dress her like everyone else?" My parents listened attentively, nodding now and then. "But we don't dress her," my mother said. "You know what I mean," the woman said. "Get her normal clothes." "And what are normal clothes?" You know. Look around. See what the other kids wear." "But her Nonna sends her these clothes from Italy. It gives her pleasure." "You want us to deny her old Nonna that pleasure?" "Whatever," the mother said. "Just do something. It's driving me crazy. And I'm not the only one who feels this way, you know." "Oh? If you'd listen, you'd hear," the woman said. And with that, she left. I'd heard it all from the kitchen. My father raised his hands to the ceiling. "People are so silly in the head." He patted my shoulder. "To me, you look perfect." My parents said nothing more about the complaining mother, and I didn't worry about what she had said. It wasn't as if I didn't care that other kids were whining or envious. It was more that I could not understand it. I could not understand why anyone would want to look like anyone else. So I guess the fight was inevitable. After school, on a hot, dusty day, I got off the bus with others. "You, Gina," a girl said. "Gypsy." She said gypsy with scorn in her voice, her words doused with lemon juice. 2 of the Grube brothers, perpetually angry boys, leaped on the challenge. "Yeah, Gina Gypsy," they taunted. Another said, "Get me my sunglasses. She's blinding me." The girl who had first called my name snatched the silk scarf trailing from my waist. She pulled hard, ripping it and knocking me off balance. "What?" I said, not challenging, but calm, because I thought it was a fleeting game. The girl leaned in close, so close that I could smell her cinnamon gum. "You think you are so special." The Grubes took up the chant. "Special Gypsy, ooh, so special." The girl slapped me on the cheek and stood in front of me, hands on her hips, daring me to take up the challenge. "The angel in Italy," I began. "Ha! Did you hear her?" a boy said. "An angel in Italy? Would what?" the girl said. I smoothed the fragment of the scarf at my hip. "The angel in Italy would freeze your words and let them fall like little ice chunks onto the ground." For a few moments there was quiet as the girl and boys absorbed that. And then the girl snarled, "Who do you think you are, talking about a stupid angel?" One of the groups looked as if he was thinking about what I'd said, trying to picture words like ice chunks falling to the ground. At his feet was gravel, and maybe because he had no words of his own and imagined the gravel as words, or maybe simply because the gravel was there, he scooped up a handful and tossed it at me. The stones hit my forehead and arms. As I turned to walk away, the others scooped up gravel and threw it at me, with more force this time. There was only one thing to do: summon the angel in Italy. The next day, my father accompanied me to the principal's office, where several mothers and their children, the gravel throwers, were gathered. "There she is," Mrs. Grubb said. She reached down to lift her son's pant leg, revealing red welts along the shins. "See what she does, that girl?" The others pushed their children forward, displaying welts on their legs too. "Ah," Dad said. "Gina?" I pushed my bangs aside so they could see the gravel cuts. I slid the sleeves of my blouse up above the elbows, disclosing more cuts. One mother covered her mouth, shocked to see the fresh wounds. "But she started it," one of the group boys said, and the others chimed in. She did. The principal glanced around the room, nodding at each face. "Let me speak with Gina alone," she said. Once the door was closed, the principal said, "So, Gina, I am a little surprised." "Yes, ma'am." "I do not believe you started it, but I am surprised that you fought back." I had the feeling she was secretly pleased I had defended myself, but she could not encourage fighting. "What prompted you?" she asked. "The angel in Italy." "Pardon?" "Angel Lucia. She was with me. She told me to pick up the branch, to swing it around, low, not high, so they would trip and stumble. Then she froze the words in their mouths, and all they had left were little ee whimpers." "Well, I see. Angel Lucia, you say?" "Yes, ma'am." The principal nodded slowly. I could use an angel like that. The porcupine, the angels, and the counselor. But after all that, after the groups had moved away and the new quiet neighbors had been there about a week, I spotted Antonio standing in the middle of our backyard. "Lose something?" I asked. "Just checking," he said, with a ridiculously charming smile. There was a porcupine here, right here, eating licorice. A porcupine? Licorice? Yes, right here. It was the red kind, not the porcupine, the licorice. You know those sticky whippy things? We studied the grass, turned all around. Nothing. No porcupine, no licorice bits. When I was little, Antonio said, people said I had a lively imagination. Lately, though, people wonder what is wrong with me because apparently I see things that others do not. A puff of disappointment left his mouth. People have said that about me too, I admitted. They have? He nodded appreciatively. That's good to know. As he turned away, he said, Gotta go. Let me know if you see any porcupines or licorice, I said. I'll let you know. When I told Dad about Antonio and the porcupine, he reminded me of another encounter I'd had at school a few years earlier. From the window of my classroom, I had seen two angels sitting in a tree. They were whispering to each other, and their wings were folded against their backs, and thin gold halos hovered above their heads. They saw me, and I saw them. One of them waved shyly. I waved back. Gina, my teacher said. Gina, this world is waiting for you. Hello, hello. I mentioned the angels whispering in the tree. See, there? The teacher and my classmates turned toward the window, peering at the lone tree at the edge of the playground. Then they turned to peer at me. I knew that look. They did not see the angels. They thought I was lying. My teacher phoned my parents and asked for a conference. After the conference, my mother took me to an eye doctor to have my vision checked. My father didn't think it was necessary. And at school, a counselor asked me many questions. He wanted to know, for example, if anyone was bullying me. Of course, I said. Of course? Is it someone in your class? No. At home? No. Then where? I tapped my head. Here. Ah, he said, adding a little star by my response. I thought maybe the star meant I'd said something especially good. Then he asked if I'd ever been locked in a room or closet. Maybe. Maybe? You don't know for sure? In which world? Pardon? Well, do you mean this world here or other worlds like in a movie or in my mind? He wrote down some more words and added several stars. Next, we examined splatters of black ink on white paper, and he asked what I saw there. Splatters of black ink, I said. Well, yes, but what do the splatters look like? They look like someone spilled an ink bottle on the paper. Maybe they were using one of those pens that you dip in ink, and then maybe they sneezed or something, and then the bottle spilled all over the paper, and it was a big mess. Yes. How about this one? Does it resemble anything? What does it remind you of? It reminds me of the other one with the spilled ink. But does it resemble, say, a butterfly or a bird or a dragon? Is that what you see? I asked. Well, yes, this one here reminds me of a fierce dragon with open mouth, but you might see something different, of course. I figured this was a trick. If I squinted at the splatters, I could envision many elaborate scenes. A winged hero, an injured dog, erupting volcanoes. But I thought that if I said so, the counselor would think I was childish. I said, Do you often have those visions of butterflies or birds or dragons? The counselor scratched his wrist and cleared his throat. I don't, he started. I was merely suggesting that others often think these ink blots resemble various other things. He stared at his shoes, tapping the toes against the carpet. On his tablet, he made some jagged squiggle marks. The counselor informed my parents and my teachers that perhaps I was simply a child with an overactive imagination. Very overactive. Dad told me that if I ever saw those angels again when I was at school, maybe I should just keep it to myself. But if you see them here at home, he said, let me know. I'd like to see them too. The new teacher. Disappointed. Antonio was not at the bus stop on the first day of school. Maybe he was being homeschooled or attending a private school, and there would be even fewer chances to see him. Relieved. My homeroom teacher, soft-spoken Miss Lightstone, was new to the school and would not be aware of the incident with the angels, and she definitely did not seem like my previous year's teacher. Maybe I could have a fresh start. My previous year's teacher was pointy, all sharp angles and shrill voice. She did not seem to like us students, and she especially did not like anything I wrote. My handwriting was messy, my sentences awkward, my spelling unacceptable, and when we did a unit on creative writing, she wrote at the top of one paper, "What is this supposed to be?" And on another, "Try again." And on others, "Read the directions and do over." I was relieved that she no longer worked at our school. The new teacher, Miss Lightstone, was the English language arts teacher. On the board, on the first morning, she had written her name and these words, "Who are you?" With one finger, she underlined the words, "Who are you?" She was probably wondering about each of us, about who we were. But I was wondering, and maybe we all were, the same about her. At the end of the day, Miss Lightstone returned to the board and again traced beneath the words, "Who are you?" She turned to us and said, "What an interesting year this will be." On the bus on the way home, I sat with my friends. One of them, Margie, was agitated. "But what does it mean? Why did she underline that question with her finger like that? Are we supposed to answer her question about who we are?" Arif, sitting across the aisle, said, "Do you think it's a test? Maybe tomorrow we'll have to write an essay on who we are." He drummed restlessly on the seat in front of him. "What should we say? Who are we?" Margie pulled on my arm. "Are we supposed to know?" While I had been in class, I liked not knowing why that question was on the board. I liked wondering about it. But now, listening to Margie and Arif, I started worrying. Were we supposed to be prepared for something tomorrow? I didn't like being unprepared. Sometimes, my mother would say, "Shiu ganai," when one of us was faced with something we couldn't help or change. So why worry? Shiu ganai. What can you do? I once asked her where she learned that foreign phrase, but it was my father who answered. She used to have a Japanese boyfriend. My mother batted at him with a dish towel. "You jealous?" My father said, "No, shiu ganai."